Well, here's that concept of creating budget. Every single time your clients go out to do a project, there's a budget. Now, it may be formal, maybe very informal. And again, being on the small business side of the space, I know sometimes budget means what's in their pocket today, right? So budget's this whatever's available for this opportunity, this solution today. And there's always going to be those three components inside that decision. They have to spend money on hardware because the hardware is required to actually run the software they're going to be installing. It may be a small bit of hardware or maybe a large bit of hardware. There's always a component for the licensing side. They have to buy the software unless they're stealing it, and that's a whole other conversation. But there's a licensing cost. So those are fixed costs inside any deployment. Then that services piece. As I mentioned, unfortunately, that's the one that quite often they say, oh, here's our budget, and then the hardware costs more than they thought, or the software costs more than they thought. And what the first thing they do, they squeeze that services side. So an interesting part of my job is to help businesses spend less on Microsoft software, which sounds odd. I'd want them to spend less on Microsoft software. It's not so they spend less on Microsoft all up. It's so when they buy the right way, they have more dollar opportunity for, number one, having it deployed the right way, so they have better experience with the solution itself, but then also they expand to other Microsoft technology. So earlier I mentioned about the enterprise scale. A lot of times we're talking to a client, they'll say, oh, I need Windows Server, or I need Exchange Server. And we just ask solution. That's what they're thinking about today. And how many times have you gone in and done a Windows Server or an Exchange Server, and suddenly a year later or 2 years later they want to take on another technology, and they're going back and it's adding more CALs, saying, oh, it's becoming so expensive by all these different CALs. But we have these suites of CALs, the core CAL, the enterprise CAL. These suites, like Office is a suite. Right? How many clients are currently buying Word by itself, and Excel by itself, and PowerPoint by itself? They're not. They're using Office, the different versions, right? Because inside the suites, they save money to get everything they need. When you think about your licensing on the server side, doing anything on the server side, understanding those CAL suites is a big opportunity. So it works the same way as Office. They could buy individual Windows CALs, Exchange CALs, but thinking about approaching that, if they move to a suite, they can get more for less. That reduces that licensing piece. And everything you do to reduce the licensing piece, again, you're asking them to increase their budget at all. It opens up more opportunity for the services side to go down and deploy that. And if they buy a suite today, maybe they're not using all 5 components of the suite, you're only using 4. But they save money by doing it. Where's your next opportunity, potentially? The 5th one. Think about the core CAL. It has a SharePoint server CAL in there. How many clients are fully deployed on a SharePoint server today? Okay, there's a big opportunity. Right? Collaboration, sharing information. Yeah, how many of your clients are using Office? Okay, so if you have an Office side and they're on a Windows server, SharePoint, if they have core CALs, which they save money by using core CAL versus doing independence, and they now have a core CAL in place, that means they have a SharePoint CAL for every desktop. What's it going to cost them to move to a SharePoint solution? The server license. That's it. And generally it's the CALs that start to add up. So by positioning that core CAL on their infrastructure and everything else that they were doing in the past, because it's just that one project they were doing, you save them money by going to a suite. But now, you put them in a position where they can take on additional technology for collaboration and things like that without having to go back and spend something else already. You position them better off. You open an opportunity for yourself. Maybe it's not right now. Maybe it's next year. Maybe it's 2 years. Whatever that is. But that's a new engagement opportunity. And if all they have to do is buy a server license to get there, the majority of that budget for that project is going directly to services. Help me come in and put it in place. Help me come in and be trained on it. Help me come in and deploy it. Okay, so again, understanding suites and opportunities, and just taking that conversation a little bit broader and thinking about licensing as that tool. If we did this, that would mean this.